Hi, this is James Miller from Cleveland, Ohio, and I play at Big Met Golf Course. This is Golf Smarter number 1006.
Let's make it kind of resemble a wedge, because if we're going to putt with a wedge, we want it to feel like it, which is why you have the perpendicular lines to the target line. Those are paying homage to the grooves of a wedge. And then the shape of it all was trying to get a visual of a wedge. We actually created the name because, one, we're going to spoil your opponent's game, but two, we needed something that ended in LER. So we were working with an industrial design firm. We all liked SpoiLER, and that's why we went with SpoiLER. Well, once we figured out the face was actually getting the roll that we wanted, then it was just all about design. How do we make it look like a mallet, but resemble a wedge? Because if we're going to say that we created this from putting with a wedge, like, we want it to look a little bit like a wedge.
Get a lead edge roll with the SpoiLER putter. It's like putting with a wedge with inventor Dan Landman.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Dan.
Hey, Fred. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you on to talk about your new invention. Is it an invention? A product? It's a product. I guess it's an invention because it's something that's out there a lot, but no one's done it like this before.
That's right.
Right?
We think it's pretty new. I mean, some people said we're a copycat. I don't think we are at all from where and how we designed this thing. And so I think it's truly an innovation, and hopefully the way that putters and everybody's going to start moving.
All right, now you gave away the secret. So we are talking about putters today, and Dan and his dad have invented or created a new design for a putter. It's called SpoiLER Golf, and the key on this is the LER in SpoiLER.
There you go.
Stands for lead edge roll.
I'm glad you picked up on that. A lot of people do not pick up on that at all.
It took me a long time to figure it out.
Okay.
No, it did not at all. No, because I got the postcard from you and it's like LER. And then I started seeing, lead. Okay, great.
Yep.
Lead edge roll.
Yep.
But still, to some people, that's kind of confusing. So explain how you got to the point where you and your dad thought this could be a good idea to create a different type of putter, unlike anything else, based on the way your dad putts, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And I'd say it's probably maybe only just right now do we actually think it's a good idea, because we've had a year of selling the product and we've had good market adoption and we sold out of everything last year. And so,
oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And so that was cool. So then it was like, okay, now we can take a breath, because before it was all pretty much an idea, right? It was during COVID. I was living up in Philly at the time with my wife. COVID hit, right? And then someone in our apartment building got COVID, right? And this was very early on. So it was like, to me, that's my death warrant. I'm done. Like, we need to get out of here because we're close to somebody. So we went down to South Carolina, where my dad was at the time, just to get away for a couple of weeks. Well, that ended up being a year, right? As we all know what happened with COVID and whatnot, and a lot of changes in life and things during that time. Well, we went down to South Carolina. My dad was living there with my mom at the time. And, he was playing golf because that's pretty much all you could do right at the time. And, some courses were closed, but his was luckily open so he could play. And
it was a great time. COVID was a great time for golf and podcasting, but a great time for golf.
Wonderful time for golf. And I guess a wonderful time for golf ideas too. So during that time while we were down there, my dad was putting with his wedge. And, he had told me, and, he doesn't golf as much as he used to, but, at the time he was probably about a 10 handicap. So he's a pretty good golfer. And he was telling me that, hey, you need to start putting with your wedge because I swear it puts a better roll on the ball. I'm like, well, that's dumb because it's harder to hit the ball and I have a putter. Like, the putter is going to be better than a wedge is. I'm going to try and belly a wedge, right? So sometimes people will use a wedge and try and belly the golf ball, right? Just from a practice standpoint, just to work on contact location, try and work on their angle of attack, try and work on getting their wrist quiet, try and work on just getting a nice rhythm with their stroke. Because if you don't do those things, you will not hit the ball in the equator. If you don't hit the ball on the equator, it will not roll properly. However, when you do putt with a wedge and belly a wedge with the leading edge of a wedge, hence lead edge roll, when you belly it with the lead edge of a roll, it does actually put a better roll on the golf ball. And I'm sure maybe you have tried time to time, or you had your putter in your hand, or you left your putter at the cart, or you broke it or whatever. And so you had to putt with a wedge. Like, more often than not, when you just grab the wedge and hit it, it goes in. Right. And I'm not going to say that they all go in or anything like that, but there is some science behind it as to why it creates more forward roll earlier in the putt. So it helps the ball actually stay on line better and start on line better because it's rolling forward earlier. Any deviation in the green isn't going to maneuver that ball offline. And then because you have less skid, less hopping, less backspin, you have a better chance to gauge your distance control because we're removing a lot of that unknown that happens earlier in the putt.
Let me stop you for a second and break down this concept of a proper roll versus traditional putters. Explain what the difference is, how it starts from a traditional putter and where it goes to on the SpoiLER golf putter.
Sure. And I think this is something that like a lot of amateurs, I'll say most amateurs probably don't even know this, right? I didn't know a lot about this till I dove in to working on putters. I think there's probably a lot of pro golfers that don't know this much detail, but like when you hit a putt, the ball does not start rolling immediately. It does not just roll, right? There's different forces in physics, right? Putting different forces on the ball. The ball's going to skid for probably the first 20%. It could even have backspin or hop a lot, depending on your loft or angle of attack, right? And so it's not a smooth roll. It's not until there's enough friction between the putting surface and that golf ball to slow down any hopping, backspin, or skid to then the ball starts actually rolling forward and rolls like we would think of roll, right? It's just rolling purely forward. But it's generally 20% of your putt is in that skid, hop, backspin phase before the ball enters into true forward roll. And
that is on all traditional flat-edged putters?
Yes, that is on every putter.
So the ball doesn't just start rolling when you hit it. It skids.
That's what absolutely, you're saying. Right? And a lot of that, if you just think of it from a common sense standpoint, the harder you hit it, right, it's going to skid more the harder you hit it because it's a smaller ball. It's got a lot of force being applied to it. It can't just roll immediately, right? It's got to skid a little before it can start rolling because you're just applying so much force into that ball. And so when you have a flat face, I'm trying to use this other arm, but bear with me because I got the rotator cuff injury, right? When you hit it, it's not going to go perfectly forward with a flat face. And really, with a conventional flat face putter, it has a little bit of loft on it, right? Yeah. So if you hit a ball, really what it's going to do is shoot it up in the air and get it back spinning a little bit before then it starts rolling forward.
And what is the impact of that roll when it skips or backspin or slides? How does that impact the way your putt is going to be
rolled? Yeah, right. I get what you're saying there. Well, it impacts it in that skid will vary. So it's, on average 20%, but based on the different turf conditions, whether you have ball marks or weeds or anything on the grass, that will always be different. It might only skid for 18%, but you might be on, a slower, shaggier green and it might skid for 24%, right? And if it's skidding at different amounts, then you can't really judge and gauge how hard to hit that ball. Moreover, if it's skidding and it hits a deviation in the green, it has more chance and a higher probability to skip it off of line because it's just skidding and it can kind of go wherever. Where if it has true forward roll, if it goes through a ball mark, it just rolls right through it and it'll stay on line better. So there are true advantages to getting the ball rolling with more forward roll and earlier in the putt, as early as you can, which is why when we started putting with a wedge, we realized the ball was rolling earlier. You can literally just feel and see the ball has a different roll to it. And anytime we put a putter in people's hands, they're like, yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a different roll. And that's the roll, that it's just rolling earlier in the putt. And so we've been able to kind of cut down that skid percentage and get the ball having more forward roll earlier in the putt by designing this lead edge roll face into our putters on SpoiLER putters.
The way you and I connected on this is you were referred to me by one of our favorite guests on the show, Joe Hallett, PGA Master Professional, based out of Nashville, Tennessee. How did you get to Joe, and how did you get him so excited about this putter?
Yeah, and as you know, Joe,
because I'm sure he sees a lot of different products.
Joe's
oh my gosh,
everything, right? He's had world number ones playing under him on the LPGA. Like, the man has seen everything and knows a lot about the golf swing, the golf ball, golf equipment, you name it, he knows it. We were fortunate enough to meet him through one of our partners. You know, our business is super, super small, right? We just launched last January. We had a wonderful first year. I pretty much run everything day to day, right? Anything that you see that has to do with SpoiLER golf, like, I'm doing it. Even shipping clubs out, inventory management, marketing, website, you name it, I'm doing it. But I have four other partners actually, that help us from a strategic standpoint. One of those was a gentleman named Dick Horton. The other two are Mark Singer. He helps us from a marketing standpoint. And then my father, Jeff Landman, was actually the one who came up with the idea of, let's put the leading edge, right, of a wedge on a putter.
Because that's the way I putt.
Right, exactly, because I think it's better. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. But over time, he's proven that it is better. And so Dick Horton was with Tennessee PGA for a very, very long time. He's actually a member of the Hall of Fame in Tennessee. And he introduced us to Joe Hallett, who's at Vanderbilt Legends Club. And you know what? We thought we were going to have to go in and sell him on the idea. You know, he was, at the time, he was the PGA the PGA coach and teacher of the year. So, I mean, he was voted as the best teacher in the USA during that year. And so when we got to meet with him, obviously we're floored. We're a new company and we have a very different product. Like, what is he going to think about it? And immediately he fell in love with it. He was like, I have people putt with a wedge all the time. I know exactly what you're doing here. He's like, however, the issue is when I have people putt with a wedge, they putt with a wedge, but they put the putter in their hand and it just feels different because it's now a putter in their hand. It's not their wedge. So it doesn't have the same feel, weighting, right? Toe hang, et cetera. And so when he saw our putter, he was like, yes, this is genius, you know, and, you know, it's obviously great to hear some validation from somebody who understands the space and could do something with. So from a training standpoint, Joe absolutely loves this club because it forces you to truly think about ball roll and not so much about your stroke. And then you can truly feel what it feels like to get pure forward roll on the ball, to truly just think about focusing on your contact and putting a good roll on the ball and just letting everything else go. And that's what he uses this for with a lot of his players. And so they'll take it in the bag and they'll do all their practice sessions and all their training sessions with SpoiLER. They might go back to their other putter, but at least now they understand the proper way in which they should putt and how that ball should come off of their face.
Fascinating. So he sees it as like a training aid.
He does. He sees it as a training aid. And, you know, you and I were talking a little bit before we jumped on air. There's another company, you know, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee originally, and so I knew them well. Seymour Putters, right?
Sure, we've featured them many times.
Seymour Putters started the same way. I mean, they were a training aid, or they were a putter with a training portion to it. And then people realized, hey, I'm making all my putts using this training aid, so why don't I go ahead and just put it in the bag, right? Our putters we don't market it as a training aid. It is fully USGA conforming, and it is a gamer, and it is a putter that puts a better roll on the ball to give every golfer a relative advantage over their playing partner and to truly help them experience pure roll on the greens. Like, that's what we're trying to do. And we don't care if you're using it as a gamer or if you're using it as a training aid. If it helps you understand and apply a proper, more pure forward roll on your ball, then we've done our job. And that's what we try to just preach day in and day out. Like, even, as little as like every time we sell a putter, we tell every single customer they can send us a video of them putting with our putter whenever they want, however many times they want. And we will analyze it, send them tips, feedback, etc. Because we want to make sure people are putting better, not just buying a better putter. We're truly hoping they buy a better putter to become better putters on the green. And that's what we're here to do. We're not truly just trying to sell a product. We're trying to help people, get better at putting by selling the product.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So this audience knows very well, and if you've looked through my feeds on the various podcast episodes, you know that I've done a lot with Sam Hahn over at Lab Golf.
Yep.
And I'm a big fan of their science behind their putters.
Me too.
And I actually, when I received your SpoiLER golf putter, I wrote to Sam.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Yeah. He and I have strange text threads, go very, infrequently, but still. And he said, I think it's a wonderful training aid.
Good.
He said that you guys reached out to him at one point. But what he says, I really appreciate that they have the balls to think outside the box and try new things.
Yeah.
Nothing but respect for those guys.
No, I appreciate too, because we've exchanged some messages back and forth, Sam, right? Just because, I knew of Lab before we ever got into these, because we spent a couple years, R&D and prototyping, et cetera, launched last year. But before that time, I heard, rumblings of Lab because they were finally starting to grow when Sam took over, right? He was doing a very good job marketing, getting the word out. And it was amazing, right? I was like, this is so cool. And to me, the cool part, and again, this is before we ever got into creating our own putter company, was, right, it's a small company doing something in a space that is dominated by giants, right? And so, like, I have just admiration and respect for what Sam's done, what Lab's done, what those guys have done over there, because it's amazing. And I mean, I hear some of their numbers. I don't know if they're real or not, but it sounds like they're running an incredible business, which they should be, because they're pushing the envelope some, right? And they've got cool technology and it works. And, we're trying to do something different in the space too. Ours is, I would say, a little bit more different, just because it looks, I guess the DF looks very, very different, and so it's a very, very
2.1, but then the 3 is getting high adoption.
Absolutely.
DF3.
Absolutely. And so we're trying to do something different in the space too, because we aren't expecting to appeal to, 100% of golfers. I want 20% of golfers to be raving fans of their SpoiLER putter.
That's a huge number.
It's a huge number, right? But of the right, that, and I don't say 20% of the entire golfing population, but of people who hear about us, like, I just want those 20 people to absolutely love us. And if 80% think that we're the dumbest thing that's ever been built or created or designed, or the ugliest putter, or it makes no sense, like, okay, that's fine. I get it. Like, that's why there's so many options out there. I mean, if you look at the putter world, like, the number of putters out there putter companies is really mind-blowing if you really dig into it. Like, there are so many mom and pops, little CNC shops, right, that are doing, but most of them, to me, are more of like an art form, and they're very pretty and they're nice, but there's not a lot of difference in what they're trying to achieve. And when we looked at this space, there's a lot about MOI and keeping your face square, and these are very important things, but it's like, nobody's talking about the roll of the ball. Like, all that matters is what the ball does after you hit it. Who cares what's happened up until that point? If we could get a really, really good roll, well, now we're cooking with gas, because now we have a lot more possibilities, because we've figured out how to get that ball rolling earlier in the space.
Yeah. And, the thing that's unique, like, we're right now, as we record this morning was the playoff between Rory McIlroy and JJ Spawn for the championship, the Players' Championship. and they had to have that Monday morning playoff because they finished too late yesterday. But I've interviewed so many people that have developed and introduced new products. But going back to Lab Golf for a moment, it's one of the few interviews that I've done, one of the few products we've exposed that you're getting that kind of exposure. JJ Spawn,
right?
Using the DF3, it's like that's going to sell putters.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And we've always known on this show, if you get it in the hands of somebody on the tour, you're going to start selling product. And otherwise, even great ideas
That's right.
can just languish along here.
Right. Because you need that validation from kind of that third party that is, has respect from the consumer, right? Which, in this space is, yes, a pro golfer of some sort. Right. And so, I mean, we're trying.
And who succeeds, especially if they have success.
Absolutely.
Playing against Rory at a 3-hole.
Yeah. You've done it. Yeah. If you've made it to a 3-hole playoff, like you've done well with this product. I mean, and I felt bad for him today too, because he had such a good, he putted great the first 3 days.
He did. And what was interesting at the end of day one, the 3 guys at the top on Thursday who were all tied at 6 under were all Lab Golf putters, but that's not what you want to talk about.
That's all right. But like I said, I think they've done it, and they've also helped pave the way for other small companies to say, like, hey, there are quality products out there that don't come from Callaway, TaylorMade, right? Puma, Cobra. Like, they make great stuff too, right? But there's new stuff. I just think that smaller companies can take more risk, right? Because the bigger companies aren't going, right? They've got their cash cow. They know what's working. There's no sense for them to truly, test new waters until they know that there's a market for it, right? And we're out there trying to say, hey, is there a market? And I think what happens with us and we see is when we tell people, hey, have you ever putted with a wedge? And when it's like you get the tinkers and the real golfers go, oh, now I get it. I putt with a wedge all the time. Like, I'm amazed at how many emails I get for orders that are, this is genius. I putt with a wedge all the time. I can't wait to get this. When can I get it? And like, I didn't think I'd get that many, but it's like, I swear every 1 in 5 emails, right, about it is like, hey, I get it. I putt with a wedge. I want to use this. I was like, oh, I didn't know there was that big of a population out there putting with a wedge, but hey, great to hear. And I think once people start using the putter and they feel that roll and they actually feel the difference, it starts to become a little bit more addictive over time. Like, I want to chase that roll. So I'm going to use that putter. And I'm going to continue to chase that roll and chase that roll.
Dan, I really appreciate you letting me try out the putter before we got to have this conversation, because it helps me tremendously. I'm holding it up here now. And for those who, well, nobody's going to be seeing this, but you are. So anyway, this is the lead edge, and this is what it looks like. It has a unique style. Talk about the design on this and how you came up with this design. One of the things that I've always loved about Lab Golf is that even before Lab Golf, I was using Seymour putters, and before that, I was using, I even forget what I was using, but I've always liked center shafted putters. Okay. I immediately, I didn't grow up playing golf, so I didn't get the traditional stuff immediately. So I've always liked a center shafted putter and the way the ball comes off of it, and I feel like it reduces the amount of mishits because there's not so much space between where all the weight's coming through for the shaft. And so in practicing with this and hitting some putts with it, I definitely noticed the roll was really coming right off. As soon as the strike happened, it starts rolling, and that, gave me a nice true roll. Good. But it did lose a lot of power on mishits. Like if I tried to hit it off the toe, mm-hmm. you're going to lose inches, or feet, depending on
how far
it is. Yeah. So let's talk about what the design is on this putter.
Yeah. So, obviously we talked a little bit about, it was putting with a wedge, which was the inspiration for why we designed it.
Right.
So that's, first and foremost, we had to have the leading edge. The first putter, I don't have one with me right now, was a prototype. We actually have, if you think of like the leading edge of a wedge and how small it is, it's like a couple millimeters. That's how big the leading edge on our first putter was. So if you want to talk about a training aid, and actually I'm going to give Joe Hallett one of our old prototypes, because he was like, from a training standpoint, I would love to see that thing. it was hard to hit the middle of the ball every time with it, just like it is, which is why we've made that face a little bit wider. And, I will say that we've got a blade coming out in June, which we've actually made the face even a touch wider on the blade to give it a little bit more forgiveness than we have on the mallet. So the mallet's still going to have the greatest forward roll and the purest roll out there. The blade's going to still have very, very, very good forward roll, but it's going to have a touch more forgiveness, so it's going to have a touch less of that forward roll on it. But anyway, to go back to the design, it was the leading edge of a wedge. So that had to be the first part, right? The face. We had to design and figure out at what height we should have that face, right? Which was a lot of testing and working with focus groups to literally figure out how high do people hover their putter on average when they're taking a stroke, right? So where's the impact?
Or do they? Yeah.
Right. So it was, and then figuring out, okay, how much diameter do we need to hit, right, the equator of the ball on a consistent basis, right? And so that was a lot of trying to figure out the front leading edge and the face of the putter. Once we figured that out, the rest was, all right, how do we now create a putter, right? A mallet putter, and I think we've got about 4,800 MOI, which is, it's good, but we weren't trying to create the highest MOI putter. Like, we're not out there trying to say that we have the most forgiving or the highest MOI. We're saying we've got the best roll, and that's what we want.
MOI being moment of inertia.
Correct, which is going to help keep the face stable, especially if you're going to hit it off the toe or off the heel. So we're probably right in the middle in MOIs. I think there's putters out there like Cure putters, perhaps. Like, their whole thing is MOI, and I think they're almost at like 18 or 20,000. Like, it's really high MOI. Like, it is a very, very, very stable face, and they put a good roll on the ball too. The rest of our putter design was, let's make it kind of resemble a wedge, right? Because if we're going to putt with a wedge, we want it to feel like it, which is why you have the kind of perpendicular lines, right, to the target line. Those are, just paying homage to the grooves of the putter there, right, or the grooves of a wedge. And then the shape of it all was trying to get, all right, it kind of comes back and trying to just get the visual of a wedge. When we did that, we were doing some, and they didn't have like the hole in the back where I, quote unquote, people call the back the spoiler, which I understand, that's the name of it. We actually created the name because spoiler was, one, we're going to spoil your opponent's roll, or spoil your opponent's game. But two, we needed something that ended in LER, right? Because as you roll. And so we were working with an industrial design firm. We all liked spoiler, and that's why we went with spoiler. It just so happens that we had, the entire thing. When we made our first one, I think it was like 500 grams of steel, right? Because we didn't have this hole cut out in the middle or any of it carved out here. So it was jagged. It was hard. This bottom part would get caught on the grass all the time because it wasn't, we didn't smooth it out. We didn't round anything out. And then we went in, right, and started tweaking it to figure out, well, once we figured out the face was actually getting the roll that we wanted, then it was just all about design, right? How do we make it look like a mallet, but resemble a wedge? Because if we're going to say that we created this from putting with a wedge, like, we want it to look a little bit like a wedge. And then it was getting the weighting right. We've got about 20 degrees of toe hang here, where you say you like center shafted. I assume if yours is center shafted, generally now you're lie angle balanced, but before it was probably face balanced. And our idea and our theory is, for a pure and proper roll, we want to not force, but we want to encourage. We want to encourage golfers to truly let the face rotate and let that toe release a little bit to help put a better roll on that golf ball. And that's a lot of personal preference. All of us were heel shaft. I grew up with a heel shafted, and I grew up, and I grew up right when I started when I was 17, but I liked I was an art major in college too. So it was like, I'm creative in my process and the way I play. I don't like to be very scientific with things or detail oriented. So I was using a blade, like Phil used to use, right? It was just like no line on it, just the old school blade. And I could just see a line, feel it, and go. And I always, always knew that if I would release the toe, like it just felt like it started on line and went exactly where I want. And so that's the theory for why all of ours right now, we don't have a center shafted model. They're all heel shafted because we'd like to encourage a little bit of that toe release that then helps get that ball rolling even that little bit more. And right, that's a little bit of torque, but I think that's good because we want the ball coming off as hot as possible, right? And it comes off hot on this face. And that's, I think, for me, it makes sense, right? And for a lot of people who use this butter, it makes, but if you like a really soft, buttery feel coming off, where you barely feel it, like we're probably not the putter for you then, which is okay. But I think it's better to have a smaller stroke with a hotter ball coming off than having to take a larger stroke and not and have the ball come the same distance, because you just have more variability in your stroke for issues to pop up. All right.
So, well, yeah, the thing that lie angle balance is they're trying to eliminate the torque, right? Get that out of your system. But you're saying, no, this is built into it. We want to, because the normal stroke for 99% of golfers has got that torque in there. Right. And Lab is trying to say, you don't really need it. No. You're saying, no. This is built into this putter.
Yeah, and we think it's actually, we're trying to use it to our advantage and to help create that roll, right? But they're using it, trying to take it out to try and keep that face stable. So we're both going after different goals, not one's right or the other, but it's just, we like the way that it feels, and we want people to be able to feel where the face is throughout the stroke, so they know that if they need to correct it, they can, but they can also release that toe and know when it's time to release that toe. And we're not talking about, full shutdown of it, but it's just a tiny bit of release that I think is just a natural tendency for when we're putting the ball. Or like even when you're bowling, right? You're not going to roll it straight ahead, right? You're going to roll it, you're going to put a little bit of spin, and that thing comes out and it's beautiful and starts rolling. And, we'll slides for a while first on whatever they put on those alleys. So that's where we're coming from. That said, we are working on designing a center shafted putter. It won't be lie angle balanced. It will be face balanced, assuming we like it, right? We always design everything, then prototype it, make sure it's got the roll and fits within our thesis and theory, and then we'll release it. But we've had a lot of customers that are just used to a center shafted putter. And a lot of that is what people did growing up, right? If you look down and you saw center shafted all the time, like to me, it is very, very, very hard for me to putt with a center shafted. Like I just struggle with it. I can't see my lines. But you put in anything heel shafted and I'm like, all right, now I feel good. Let's do that. Whether it's a mallet or a blade.
Is there a fitting process that you need to go through, or is this it's like I usually use a 33-inch putter, and you say, great, we'll send you one.
Yeah, we would love to get to a point to have a fitting process. And, that is in the plans at some point, right? We launched, this is just our second year in business. So we're trying to kind of start as smart and focused as we can, right? Last year it was just one club, one color, 2 shaft lengths. That's it. This year we're going to have, we've got our silver mallet. We're coming out with our black stealth edition. Ooh. 34 and 35 inch. Yeah, the black is awesome.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it looks like we need to order more of those already. So, because we've been pre-ordering them, and I'm amazed how many pre-orders we've already had as well. So it's been a good start to this year. So we'll have those in 34 and 35 inch as well, and left-handed. And then we've got the blade coming out later this year, which will be 34 and 35 inch and left-handed as well. And so we're trying to keep our SKUs as limited as we can right now, because I've just seen too many companies get so excited about trying to appease everyone, which I want to do at some point. But our whole deal still is in the face technology and the design of the lead edge roll face. And so to us, that's the most important thing. And we want to deliver that to people straight out of the box, ready to go. And if it's straight out of the box, ready to go, they can make modifications however they want, right? Pull the shaft, put your own shaft in, put a new grip on it, change the lie angle if you would want. But right now, everything's just 34, 35 inches, 70 degrees, because again, all the technology for us is in the head. we will move along to where we are going to have more optionality once we can get our operations really, really clean and when it makes sense. But we can't bankrupt ourselves right now. We're still in a big hole from R&D that we've got to scratch out of a little bit before we can start adding on more services. And, hopefully after this year, that'll be the time. If we hit the goals that we think we're going to hit this year, then we'll be able to invest in kind of a larger, inventory, larger operation, more customizations, and that should hopefully be coming next year then.
Very cool. And what are the costs retail?
Well,
for the
retail
consumer?
costs right now, we got some pre-order pricing going on, so it's a little bit off, but generally they started about $318 for the silver mallet, $328 for the stealth mallet. And then I think the blade's going to come in. We're still doing final costing, but it'll be right around $300 for the blade when it comes in. Those are our costs. And, we know that, most people want to putt with a putter, right, before they buy one. And, and most people will go to Golf Galaxy, right, or Dick's or wherever and roll them, right? And then you have everything there you can imagine you can roll before you ever buy it. So we offer 30 days, right? Money back guarantee too. So if people don't love it, they can send it back and we'll give them their money back, because again, we want people to love this. We don't want to just shove it down people's throat. And if they don't like it, not enjoy it,
it's a lot of money. Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's redo this. And is this in internationally?
Internationally,
you do this
order
with the return policy as well.
What's that?
With the return policy as well, internationally.
It is. The only difference is that the customer then has to pay for the return. The customer has to pay for return shipping anyway, but it's only $15 in the U.S. If it's international, it can be anywhere from
more
40 to. Yeah. I mean, we've sent some that it was $120 shipping, right?
Yeah.
And then they have to pay duty and VAT on top of that too to get it. So
after I received it, did some putting with it in my practice yard here, my practice putting green in my yard, and got some feel for it, which was really fun. And then I did an A/B back and forth with the DF3, and it was like, oh, yeah, I can definitely see a difference here. And then hearing you say and Sam saying, oh, it's great for training. It's like, yeah, okay, this is going to get a lot more time out there for that. But this weekend when I went and played golf, I brought it with me.
All right.
And I walked out on the practice putting green and I talked to a couple of golfers. And here, I'll let you hear the conversation. Here's the first one. Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
Hi, my name's Fred.
Hi, Fred. Tom.
Tom, good to meet you, Tom.
Nice to meet you.
I host a podcast called the Golf Smarter Podcast, interviewing a guy who just invented a new style putter. This is called the SpoiLER, and the LER on SpoiLER stands for lead, edge, roll.
Okay.
So it's based on the concept of some people putt with their wedge because it gets a good roll.
That's something I've never been able to do.
What kind of putter do you use?
This is a Wilson 8802 Classic.
Classic blade, huh?
Yeah.
How long have you been using it?
This is probably my 5th or 6th season with it.
Okay. So what I'd like you to do is just take a couple putts with your putter first.
Oh, sure.
From this distance, and this is about 9 feet.
Okay.
Go ahead and take a couple putts with your putter first. Little editing here. Good distance. A little bit low. Nice. Great putt. Oh, and it just slipped out. All right, now let's give you some strokes with the SpoiLER and see how that feels.
Fascinating. Whoa.
Did I ask you what your index is?
Yeah, it's 15.
15, okay. And how's your putting generally?
Depends on how much I'm playing.
Okay.
I'm not playing as much as I'd like to.
Sure, no one ever is.
I'm working on something. I'm pretty happy with my putting, actually.
Great.
So this straight back, straight through.
It's up to you.
Feels like it's going to be heavier at impact, but then it kind of isn't.
Uh-huh.
That was a wipe.
Interesting,
though. It feels softer
than you expected.
Yeah. Can I give it another one?
Absolutely, if you want. And are you a straight back, straight through kind of guy?
No, I tend not to be. I used to putt with the mallet before I started putting with that.
Uh-huh. How would you describe your putting? Look at that one go in.
That felt good.
Yeah. It looked great. Right in the center of the cup.
Definitely had a nice release on it.
Yeah. You want to try one of the longer putt?
Sure. That sounds like fun.
Okay. You pick it.
Okay.
You want to just go downhill to this one here?
Yeah, why not?
Or this one over here?
Let's go with this one.
That's okay. 1, 2, 20, 27 feet downhill.
Okay.
It's going to break probably right to left. So he doesn't go straight back, straight through. That's coming up a little bit short. Kind of goes out and in and slides across the putter. But
Better
it's
release on
square.
that.
That's really good. Just went past the hole on the low side.
It feels like it's only hitting the top half of the ball, which is a little different. Like
it's a very different feel.
Yeah, it's a different feel. It's interesting. It's cool.
Interesting idea, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
I'd like a little more weight at the bottom, I guess.
Okay.
That'd be my feedback.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
That's awesome.
What do you think of that?
I love it. I think when people are just intrigued by it, that makes my day.
Yeah.
That's enough for me where it's like, all right, cool. Yeah, that is different and it works.
But it's not enough for me. There's another guy out there, and here's that session. How'd that one went? What's your name?
Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Let's do this. Let's take like a 10-foot putt.
Okay.
Take 3 putts with your putter from that 10 feet. And even a 6-foot putt, a 7-foot putt here. What do we have here? This is about 8.5 feet. You've practiced here before, you know. Okay, just rim the left side of your first one with your own putter. What kind of putter? Now, you're putting with a blade. A little short.
This is a ping answer.
And how long have you been putting with this?
Oh, probably 10 years.
Okay. This is called the SpoiLER. And
SpoiLER, okay.
yeah, the LER is lead edge roll.
Okay.
Which is SpoiLER. You said it's about the same weight as your ping answer?
My grip is thick,
Yeah.
so this is not ideal.
A little short, but good line on that one.
Yeah. Well, let's go a little longer putt. How's that?
Okay. How did that feel?
That felt fine. It's different,
Yeah.
obviously.
You know, the point of the lead edge on like people putting with their wedges, it starts rolling immediately. Where with most putters, it slides a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is about 27 feet uphill, break right to left. Look at this. Whoa, your first putt. Really nice, just on the high side of the hole, past it by about 18 inches. Good line on this one. A little bit short by about 3 feet.
Yeah, and I still didn't hit it.
A little bit short again, on the low side. What's your index, Mike?
Right now it's 15.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
And
good.
how's your putting usually?
My putting is inconsistent at best.
But you're still putting with the same putter after 10 years.
Yes, I know. It's what did they say about insanity?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to figure it out at some point. So, any reviews? What's your concept?
I like it. The only thing I would change
Is the grip.
is the grip. Yeah.
Really?
Let me try this. I would like to try putting that off the fringe.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, because
Because of that lead edge being high.
yeah. So even into the rough a little bit. Can you putt
Yeah,
it off?
let's take it a little more level here.
Okay.
Now, that's interesting. He's like, there's the first cut and then the rough, and he's about 3 inches into the rough.
Yeah.
And the ball bounced up out of the rough on that first one, came up short about 4 or 5 feet.
It does bounce
So
off
it bounces up. Interesting. And this is about a 15-foot putt. That's real good. That's real good.
Yeah, once you get used to it, I think it's fine. What I'm trying to do is put that club, my regular putter, under it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that with this. Let me try that
And
again.
is that a putt that you have frequently in your game? You're just short of the green?
At a 15 index,
Yeah.
I have a lot of putts from off the green. It definitely gets
Good
through.
one. Yeah, it does. Look at this. Oh,
Just a little too firm.
and just under the hole.
Yeah.
And that one popped up.
Yeah.
Take your putter off the green and show me what happens with this one. Wow, that was your best putt from off the green because that's your putter.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Great to meet you. Thanks so much. So I found that absolutely fascinating. These two random,
Yeah.
I literally random. I just walked home and said, "Excuse me, can I talk to you?" And never saw these guys before, but they were both intrigued by it. They both liked it. I loved the idea of the second guy. I think it was Mike, taking it off into the rough. It's like, oh, wait a minute. that makes a lot of sense because, if you're putting with a wedge, you want to strike the ball. And even as I was watching the Players Championship this weekend,
on 17,
hole 17,
every time they'd all roll back right where Lucas was, Rory was.
Yeah, exactly. It rolled and stopped right at the edge. Now that is,
I was waiting for Brad.
That's hell for a golfer.
They need a spoiler. He just didn't say it. If Brad had said that on air, because he knows it exists out there. He's commented on it before, but yeah, it's great for right up there, right up against like
I would think so.
First cut and the green, like it's wonderful there. Out of the rough, it does take some getting used. You actually, to me, I have to play it a little further back in my stance, just because I want to try and I really want to make certain that I'm hitting either the top of the ball or right at the equator. If you hit underneath it a little bit, it'll do what it sounds like that second gentleman did, pop up a little bit before it starts rolling there, because it's definitely a smaller leading edge on it, on that face. So you need to be very conscious of where your contact point is on the golf ball. It's really fun though that he wanted to go do that, because a lot of people will send us messages as well or call us and ask, hey, how does it work off the green? I'm like, it works tremendously well, right? You just need to play around with it. And I think it's the same with any putter, really. Like, you need to get comfortable with it. Ours definitely looks different, but I promise it rolls better than anything else out there.
Did I represent it well?
What's that?
I mean, you heard me representing your putter to these other people. Did that all right?
Yeah.
Did I miss any points?
No, and I actually appreciate when people know nothing about it too, and then just roll it, right? And because to me, that's a lot of the reason why we haven't even approached like big box retailers or anything, because it's hard if you see this sitting on the ground somewhere at Golf Galaxy or PGA Superstore.
It's like, what's that?
Yeah, and write it off as a gimmick. And so, we're doing a lot right now to make certain that we're not written off as a gimmick. We didn't build this to just be different for the hell of being different. We did it because there's...
Can't afford that.
No. And
this is a business.
Yeah, it's a business, and it truly rolls the ball better. And it just looks different, but that's how we got to that end result. So, a lot of it is we've got to make sure that we're kind of still controlling the message to the consumer, which is why we do everything D2C right now.
Direct to consumer. That's exactly what it's bringing.
Until we get to a point where we're a little more mainstream. I went to a PGA show this year. We didn't have a booth, but I went down to just go meet.
Scoped it out.
Yeah, and I wanted to meet with people, and I had some meetings set up and some vendors and some manufacturers that I needed to meet with down there. So I went and met there. And, when I talked to a few people, I'm like, yeah, I'm Dan, I'm with SpoiLER Golf. I'm like, I've never heard of it. And I was like, well, like, these are the people of golf, and they haven't heard of it. But, if you, like, we sold out last year. Our Instagram account, went from 0 to, I don't know, almost 30,000 followers in a year. Like,
wow.
Getting a lot of traction. We've had a lot of videos that have gotten millions of views. And so I think more people have heard of us than truly have, so it's still, there's a long way to go until we can get enough people to hear about us, to give us a try. And again, once they give us a try, if everyone doesn't love it, I'm okay. But I want to make sure that the ones that do love it do. And last year, if it's any indication, I mean, we had very, very, very low return rates, like, low single digits. And, we expected a lot more than that for being a very new product, different product, and only bought online. So we feel good with where we are right now, but it's a matter of getting it out there like you did, just on a green. I mean, I do that all the time, right? Wherever I am.
I bet. I bet.
Right. Give me your feedback, because that's the other thing too. Like, all last year to me was a huge focus group, right? We bought our inventory, and then it was, let's learn as much as we can. What's the feedback? The grip feedback, I heard that a million times. We have brand new, thicker, nicer grips, custom logo for us this year. We got the same thing with the head cover. We got brand new head covers coming out that are nicer leather, more heavy duty, better stitching. The grip is probably twice as big. And like I said, it's going to have our logo on it. So it's all custom for us. So, we're making small improvements like that, and we'll continue to listen to the customer too, like the center shafted that I won't be a huge fan of, but maybe it'll change my mind.
Is there any incentive that you can provide to the Golf Smarter community to, like you're getting the word out there. You've got an interest of a lot of people who are now listening. Do you have any incentive for them to come to you?
Oh, absolutely. No. And thank you for having me on this podcast. I've listened to it a bunch. Obviously Joe introduced me to you, but yeah, for any listener of Golf Smarter, if they want to make a purchase, we've been waiting to be in stock. We ran out of stock last year. We ran into some issues with tariffs and things, right? So
we're now talking in mid-March here. So by the time people hear this, you'll probably have things hopefully back in stock.
Yeah, no, tomorrow we'll be back in stock.
Oh, all right. So then by the time this thing publishes, you've got stock. Yep. All right. So
for any Golf Smarter listener out there, we can do 10% off for anybody who wants to give this a try. I'll send you the code, Fred, and you can do with it as you will, but it'll be Golf Smarter 10. They can use it when they go.
Just make it Golf Smarter. Just make it easy.
All right, we're going to make the code Golf Smarter. 10% off for anybody who hears about us through this podcast and wants to give us a try.
So on the coupon code, so just go to SpoilerGolf.com.
Yep. When you check out,
check out the whole site, and when you're checking out, put in Golf Smarter, and you'll be getting 10% off.
That's right.
Your Spoiler Golf putter.
Absolutely. No.
And training aid.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll hear back. Yeah, and however people want to use it, we're all here for it. But
absolutely.
Cool
just take one home and check it out. And you got a 30-day money back guarantee.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly. We want people to love it. That's it at the end of the day.
Fabulous. Dan, thank you so much. I'm really impressed. I'm excited for you guys. I hope this works way beyond your expectations.
Me too.
And anything that we can do to give you a little bit of a push, I'm happy to do it. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate taking the time, and always fun chatting with you.